So it seems as if World of Warcraft has lost 2.9 million subscribers in just 3 months, and this represents the biggest loss for the game in terms of subscriber numbers in the game's entire history. It's not the lowest point the game's been at, that was around Mr. Pandaria towards the latter end of that expansion, but it's the biggest drop within such a small period of time. And the first thing that most people want to ask here is, how has this happened? And there are quite a few factors to consider here, and although I am surprised by the volume, I have to say I don't think 2.9 million is something anyone would predict in such a short period of time. I'm not surprised the numbers have gone down. Now, when Warlords of Draenor came out, there was a huge jump from Mr. Pandaria. It actually went up to 10 million subscribers, and now it's gone down to 7.1. It's quite a big difference there within the same expansion. And what happened was, with Warlords of Draenor, there was a pretty strong marketing campaign, I think you would agree. I think everyone at some point saw the cinematic that was very well done. People saw the boost to 90 perk. There were lots of things to bring old players back. So they've come back to the game, they've enjoyed it, they went through the quest system, which I personally think was excellent. They've got their garrison up, they've got to level 100, dabbled in a bit of raiding, but then, as happens all the time with World of Warcraft, things just go stale, they flatline. Now with my World of Warcraft character, my shaman, he's in a bit of a place right now where there isn't much for him to do in terms of PvE, which is what I tend to do. I've already defeated Blackhand on Flex, and I just feel like, for me, that's not what everyone will call the ultimate, but for me, that's good enough. That's as far as I want to take him. My garrison is where I want it to be. I could make it better by getting the menagerie, but that would mean doing pet battles, which, while I do sort of enjoy, I don't really care to level up that much. And so a lot of people in a similar position to me are going to be thinking, well, you know, I enjoyed my time playing through the quests in this game, but right now I'm done for it, so I'm going to cancel my subscription and maybe come back to it. This just happens with the game, as you know, this is the biggest drop it's ever been, but this is not uncommon for World of Warcraft. It gets to a point where people just run out of things to do, and you have to keep in mind, it's not like Call of Duty where you can just say, well, I'm a bit bored of it, but I can keep coming back to it once every now and then. Because it's a subscription, you have to want to play it so much that you want to pay as well. So I can understand how this has happened. And what I'm actually doing, and I'm going to try and, if I can, put this up on the screen, is I'm looking at a graph of the game in terms of subscriber numbers, how it's changed over time. So with Vanilla, there was a steady climb. I can see there was a pretty big jump at one point. I'm assuming that was when the game got some real notoriety for being very good. It kept rising up through the Burning Crusade. It actually just kept going up and up and up, year after year, up until the very beginning of Cataclysm, where it was at an all-time high, and then it dropped. And then it kept dropping and kept dropping and kept dropping until Mr. Pandaria came out. Then you saw a rise, but then again we saw a steady decline. And then there was a bit of a rise toward the end of Mr. Pandaria, which I actually don't understand how that happened. And then with Warlords of Draenor, there was a huge jump. I think actually the biggest jump in the game's history within such a short period of time. So I can only assume that because there was such a big jump up of people deciding to join the game again, that those people who were returning players who just felt like, if you are being a bit nostalgic, returning to the game they once loved, they decided, okay, you know, I've had my time, I've enjoyed it, and now I'm going to leave again. I think this is, as I say, I think the number is a bit extravagant. I'm surprised by the sheer number of people leaving, just as I was surprised by the number of people who rejoined with the expansion. Something that is very important to consider is that this is a 10-year-old game, right? It's a 10-year-old game and it still has 7.1 million people playing it and paying continuously to play it. That in and of itself is very impressive. The fact it's not lower actually surprises me. I mean, if you think back 10 years ago to a game you were playing at the time, I very much doubt you are still playing it. I think Blizzard are foreseeing this drop. I mean, if you look at their new games they're bringing out, there's Heroes of the Storm, there's Overwatch on its way, there's Hearthstone, which has been tremendously successful. And I think they foresee this drop, this reduction in subscribers, and as a result, they are trying to make redundancies for that, where there will be new games for people to transition over to. I think that the ultimate plan for Blizzard, if World of Warcraft ever gets into a point where it actually has to be shut down, which still probably won't happen for years to come. I mean, it can probably still survive on 1 million dedicated subscribers, but whatever. They could always pull out what I think would be their absolute ace card and announce WarCraft 4. I mean, WarCraft 4 just seems like the best thing in the world to me right now, although I don't think while World of Warcraft is still going strong, as it still is, Warcraft can't really return. But once World of Warcraft loses traction, they can either bring out a new MMO, which to me, for some reason, doesn't seem that exciting, or they can go back and revive Warcraft from the RTS perspective. So there are things they could do once World of Warcraft does finally crash. I mean, some people may say the game is dying, which is, I guess, technically true in the sense that it is deteriorating, purely in terms from a subscriber perspective. It's still in a position that is enviable by most other MMO standards. I mean, I don't think, I am not checking right now, but I don't think Guild Wars is at this level. And you have to keep in mind that there are different kinds of people playing this game. There are the dedicated ones who are probably representing about 2.5 million who aren't going to go for a very long time, and then you have a large number of people who are going to be dropping in and out all the time. They're not dedicated, they just want to come in and play occasionally, drop back out, drop back in, and they're going to be fluctuating all the time. So I don't think you would even see a steady decline. It may decline down to about 2.5 million, but then it would sort of become more consistent because you're down to the more dedicated players, people who have invested a serious amount of time into the game and are in no rush to leave. I am just going to bring the graph I showed you back up again because it is very interesting. Obviously we're seeing that on the whole Wrath of the Lich King was the most popular expansion, and I can kind of see why that was. ICC was a fantastic raid which was part of the game for a very long time, and I think for a lot of people that was, where raiding became a lot of fun. It wasn't overly difficult, but it wasn't casual either. It was just a very well done, very interesting bosses. And of course, the Lich King himself, he was a boss that we all wanted to take down. Not only was he a large part of the Warcraft 3 experience, but he was also constantly coming up throughout the Lich King questing system. So he was a boss you just really wanted to take down. And to be perfectly honest, I don't think World of Warcraft has had a more compelling boss since. So, to close my thoughts on this story, there are essentially two perspectives from which to see this. If you are Blizzard, I'm assuming they're fairly upset by this decline, and well, they can deal with it. But as the players, as my perspective and potentially your perspective, I wouldn't be too worried about this. I think World of Warcraft still got a lot of traction in it, so I wouldn't worry about the game being shut down or anything anytime soon. Also, because of Cross Realms, where you get to see other people in your realm, it still continues to create the impression that this is a very popular game, which it is. So I wouldn't worry about the game feeling barren or anything. I mean, it is still 7.1 million, that's still a lot of people. And if anything, when this expansion first came out, people were having problems getting into the game because of queue server times, people were just swarming around quest givers. So to be honest, if anything, just looking at it if you're a player of the game, it's not such a bad thing.